this year, WNBA players have gotten exactly what they wanted. Caitlin Clark has essentially missed the entire season, and the WNBA has suffered the consequences.
The WNBA is in a state of panic, and they are desperately trying to hide it. Caitlin Clark, the player who was supposed to save the league, has vanished, and her absence is triggering a full-blown crisis. But the official story of a day-by-day injury doesn't add up, and the truth is far more alarming than anyone is willing to admit.
Fortunately, I'm starting to get this gut feeling that we might not even see Caitlin back on the court this season, and that might actually be now. ESPN had August 12th as the circled return date for Caitlin Clark to get back onto the court, and just yesterday she was listed as a game time decision for today's game against the Dallas Wings. And then after practice yesterday, Coach Stephanie White basically came out and said, like, no, Caitlin Clark hasn't even been practicing. So they changed it from a game time decision to her being.
The first sign that something was deeply wrong wasn't a doctor's report. It was the official story being fed to the public. For weeks, as Caitlin Clark remained sidelined, Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White met the media with the same empty phrases. No timetable, we're taking it day by day. In the world of professional sports, this isn't reassurance. It's coded language for a crisis. Fans and analysts began to realize this wasn't a simple recovery. It was a holding pattern, a deliberate veil of uncertainty designed to mask a much more ominous reality. The vague updates created more questions than answers, fueling speculation that the injuries were far more serious than anyone was letting on. The organization was hiding something, and the longer the silence went on, the worse the truth seemed to be.
No return to practice. She's been able to get a little bit more in her full court running, with her all her body weight. It's really building up from doing minimal to then building some endurance to do longer periods of time. She's been able to do a little bit more on the court in terms of how she moves, but not into practice yet.
Now, not into practice yet. That is obviously a negative as far as how soon Caitlin Clark will be back, because she will be in practice before she returns to the court. I would guess at least a few practices before she returns.
But a team's actions often speak louder than a coach's carefully chosen words. While the front office preached patience, they made a desperate move that exposed their true fears. The Indiana Fever announced the signing of 33-year-old veteran Odyssey Sims to a hardship contract. This wasn't a strategic addition to build for the future, it was an emergency patch on a sinking ship. Teams don't sign journeymen to hardship deals when their franchise cornerstone is just a week or two away from returning. They do it when they know they are facing a long, brutal stretch without their star player. This single roster move shattered the illusion of a quick recovery and sent a clear, panicked message to the entire league. We are preparing for life without Caitlin Clark for the foreseeable future.
This is what the Indiana Fever organization been doing way too much. They dangle Caitlin Clark like a carrot, and we're all rabbits trying to get it. And then last minute, they'll let you know, oh, hey, Caitlin Clark's not available. Midday or something like that while everybody's traveling to get to the arena. Then you get to the arena, she ain't there.
Can't wait until Caitlin Clark is back. She's the most dynamic, electric player in the WNBA. Great job, Lexi. Scott said, have patience, at least several more weeks. Now, whoa.
While the team offered vague reassurances, the financial numbers were screaming the brutal truth. The Caitlin Clark effect wasn't just a marketing slogan, it was a measurable economic boom, and its disappearance was catastrophic. When Clark played, Fever games averaged an incredible 1.26 million viewers. Without her, that number plummeted to just 549,000, a drop of over 56%. The damage was even more visible in the arenas. Ticket prices for games she was expected to play in collapsed overnight. Chicago Sky tickets, once commanding $86, fell to a mere $25, a staggering 71% decrease. The WNBA's All-Star Game, held in Clark's adopted hometown, saw its viewership plunge by 36% without her on the court. This wasn't a small dip. It was a market correction that laid bare a dangerous reality. The league hadn't built a bigger boat. It had simply tied its entire fortune to a single anchor, and that anchor was now lost at sea.
I'm wondering, why did the Indiana Fever and Stephanie White decide not to come out and say, hey, she's not practicing. She's not going to be playing in this game. And this is why I've got a problem, because there's gambling implications here. All right? There's gambling implications, and there's the implications of we've got a nationally televised game on ESPN. We want to sell as many tickets as possible. And by the way, charge the most money we can get gate revenue, yada, yada, yada.
Lost in the chaos of collapsing ticket prices and frantic media coverage is the person at the center of it all, Caitlin Clark herself. In a raw and honest interview, she admitted, "I've never been through anything like this." This was a player who before this season had an ironclad reputation for durability, never missing a single game in her entire career due to injury. Now she was trapped in a relentless cycle of rehab, hope, and frustrating setbacks. She revealed the enormous pressure she feels to return, not just for her team, but for the millions of new fans she brought to the sport. It's a tragic conflict, a young star torn between the desperate need to heal her body and the immense weight of carrying an entire league on her shoulders. This mental and emotional toll could be just as damaging as the physical injuries themselves.
Maybe it's just me, but there seems to be a massive decline in mainstream interest in the WNBA this season. Last year, there were so many stories in the WNBA, it was hard to keep up. Over the past couple of weeks, outside of Airborne Wiener, there's really been nothing to talk about. Think about it. What is the biggest storyline right now?
But the fallout from Clark's absence has exposed a bitter and shocking irony that has left many players in the league in a deeply uncomfortable position. At the beginning of the season, the narrative was dominated by what Charles Barkley bluntly called petty jealousy. Some veteran players seemed to resent the attention Clark was receiving, downplaying her impact, and even snubbing her in All-Star voting, ranking her a lowly ninth among guards. Now that envy has backfired in spectacular fashion. Those same players are now confronted with the cold, hard reality of their situation: half-empty arenas, dwindling TV viewership, and a sharp decline in mainstream interest. They are learning a brutal lesson that their salaries, their exposure, and their relevance are all directly tied to the very player they tried to dismiss. The spotlight they resented is the same one that kept the lights on.
Being active and playing 4 games and then not, and like not feeling the best, and then like frustrated of like how hard I worked in the off season, and then like all I do is rehab and like continue to do this process, and just like trying to trust that the best I can. And obviously there's really frustrating days, and there's days where like it's a little bit easier and like you're very, very motivated and like you're close to the finish line of getting back and being back. And then like it's not like I have a training camp to like build up to like playing my first game again. It's like, no, like you're tossed into game 30, like go try to play well. Like it's hard.
This catastrophic breakdown leads to the uncomfortable question that insiders are starting to whisper, an accusation that nobody wants to say out loud. Was the WNBA's most valuable asset completely mismanaged? Clark entered the league as a generational talent who was already a household name, shattering records and pushing the sport into profitability. Yet, just a few months into her professional career, she's been physically run into the ground. This pattern of recurring soft tissue injuries points to a number of red flags: potential overuse, poor recovery protocols, or questionable training management. The league and the team, in their rush to capitalize on the Clark phenomenon, may have pushed their golden goose too hard, too fast. The very people who stood to gain the most from her success may be the ones responsible for her breakdown.
The Indiana Fever go out and pick up Odyssey Sims, a former second-team All-WNBA player, somebody who just as recently as June 1st this season dropped 32 points on the Phoenix Mercury.
Perhaps the most devastating impact, however, is the one that won't show up on a balance sheet. It's the profound sense of betrayal felt by the millions of new fans who discovered the WNBA because of Caitlin Clark. Families planned summer vacations around Fever games. Parents bought jerseys for their kids, transforming entire households into loyal supporters. For them, Clark was more than a player. She was their entry point into the sport. Now they are left with expensive, non-refundable tickets to watch a team stripped of its magic. They feel misled by the team's lack of transparency and are left with a sour taste, wondering if the league they just started to love is even worth their time and money without the one player who brought them in. This erosion of trust could cause permanent damage, turning a once-in-a-generation opportunity for growth into a story of what could have been.
What's going on in Indiana is that I feel like a lot of these people in the front office, a lot of these people up in Indy for the Fever do not care for Caitlin Clark for whatever reason. Scott Atkins could be one of them. Not saying that he is, but it's looking like he don't care for Caitlin Clark. We know clear as day that Stephanie White has been looking in certain areas not to be feeling the Caitlin Clark effect. I don't know, but this stuff is definitely looking concerning because it's showing us that could there be more to her injury and they're not being transparent.
But what if the lack of transparency is more calculated than anyone realizes? Suspicions are growing that the Indiana Fever organization is deliberately misleading the public for financial gain by listing Clark as a game-time decision for nationally televised matchups. Only to rule her out at the last minute, they ensure ticket sales remain high and viewers tune in. They are dangling their star player like a carrot, fully aware she has no chance of playing, just to squeeze every last dollar out of her name. This isn't just poor communication, it's a deception with serious consequences, not only for heartbroken fans who travel to arenas, but also for the integrity of the game itself, especially with the rise of sports betting. The team isn't just hiding an injury, they're exploiting it.
I mean, it's not my first time just coming to a new team and coming in and just being me. So the biggest thing is just doing what I do best. Playing defense, playing hard, doing whatever the team needs. Obviously, I know they've been down with the injuries. Prayers up for Sid and Ari. Love them both. But like I said, I'm excited to be here, and I'm not going to do too much. But whatever coach tells me to do is I'm going to do and have fun and enjoy my team.
The crisis is no longer contained to Indiana. The contagion is spreading across the entire league. The popular theory was that Clark's gravity would lift all teams, creating a rising tide of interest in the WNBA. That theory has now been brutally debunked. In cities where Clark isn't playing, arena attendance has remained stagnant, and TV ratings for other matchups are only marginally better than last year. Even the much-hyped debut of the Golden State Valkyries, a massive expansion milestone, felt muted, falling far short of the Clark-driven hysteria the league had become addicted to. The painful truth is now undeniable. The WNBA didn't experience league-wide growth. It experienced a temporary surge centered entirely on one person. Without her, the league risks slipping right back into the niche it fought so hard to escape.
And that's why Caitlin Clark is so great, because Caitlin Clark is the magnet. She's the magnet, the needle. I'll say magnet in this case. She draws a big audience. And with that big audience, you learn about the other teams by watching the Fever. And since they play each other so many times, and there's only 12 other teams they play, why'd I have to watch the other teams for? Seriously, why? I don't find the other teams that interesting.
Even if, by some miracle, Clark is cleared to play, the idea of an immediate triumphant return is a dangerous fantasy. As Clark herself has pointed out, there is no training camp to ease back into form. She would be thrown directly into the fire of Game 30, expected to perform at an elite level against opponents who are in peak mid-season condition. You can't simulate game speed in rehab. The intensity, the adrenaline, and the physical toll are on a completely different level. Rushing her back would not only risk immediate re-injury but could set her up for failure, shattering the very confidence she needs to recover. A return this season isn't just a physical challenge, it's a near impossible mental and logistical one, with devastating consequences if it goes wrong.
Caitlin Clark should not be thrown back into any mix if she doesn't have significant practices under her belt before she goes into game speed. You can try to simulate game speed as much as you want in practice. You will never be able to. Game speed is game speed. There's also a lot more adrenaline, all of these different things pumping when you're playing in front of a sold out crowd that the Indiana Fever do every single night. If I'm their coach, she needs to practice for at minimum a week. At the minimum. She needs to be doing everything in practice for at least a week before you throw her back in.
Clark's absence has exposed the WNBA's most catastrophic strategic blunder. They had no plan B. The league poured its entire marketing budget and media strategy into amplifying the Caitlin Clark effect, moving games to 20,000-seat arenas and reshuffling schedules around her. But in doing so, they failed to build up any other compelling stars or storylines. Who is the next player the league can rally around? Who else can command a national broadcast and fill an NBA-sized stadium? The answer, chillingly, is no one. They failed to use the unprecedented spotlight Clark provided to elevate other talented players, leaving them with a massive power vacuum. Now, with their main attraction gone, they are left with a product that feels hollow to the casual fans they desperately need to keep.
Like, Stephanie White was saying that she's not done anything with the team. Like, she's not even shooting around with the team. Like, as much as we're hearing certain things, I just don't know. I don't know. Like, let's just say several more weeks. Let's just say, for argument's sake, she's out for 3 more weeks. Several.
The WNBA bet everything on one transcendent star. They built their marketing, their broadcast deals, and their entire narrative of growth around the assumption that Caitlin Clark would be there, healthy and dominant. Now, with no certain timeline for her return, the league is staring into an abyss. The momentum is gone, the hype is fading, and the uncomfortable truth is setting in. But the question that no one in the league office dares to ask out loud is the most terrifying one of all. What happens if their all-in bet was a bust? What happens if she doesn't come back this season? Or worse, what if she never comes back as the same player again? The entire future of the league might just depend on the answer.